Hi, everybody. Welcome to Connecting Founders and Fueling Innovation, presented to you today by Wocstar and Knox Street Studios. We are to have you. Thank you for joining us on your lunch break. Hopefully you all had a chance to grab a tasty treat and some coffee. We're about to get started. I know you guys are anxious to get back to the conference, so thank you for being patient with us. We have a really exciting conversation happening today. I'm going to go ahead and welcome our amazing sponsors, Provident 1898, who graciously gave us a space today to welcome you to our event. Please come up, Carl and Peter.
Thank you, and good afternoon. My name is Carl Webb, and I am one of the co-founders of Provident 1898, this wonderful space that you're sitting in, which has such rich history. It is really the anchor and the cornerstone of Durham's Black Wall Street. I think I just met a person from Tulsa, and there she is, and she's also at Duke. And you know, one of the interesting things about the dirt underneath this building is that this is where the family of the Duke family signed an agreement with Trinity College to convert Duke to Duke. This was actually the land of one of the homesteads of the Duke family. So we're really proud of that kind of interconnectedness that we have. I'm joined here by my partner, Peter Savelich. We are coming up on, next week, 6 years of doing this work. And it's been so significant and it's so important because what we're really trying to do is to say that the work that John Merrick and Dr. Aaron McDuffie Moore did over 100 years ago is still really essential today, and us sort of standing on this history and legacy of Black entrepreneurship. And so what we do here at Provident is to create a space for the next generation of entrepreneurs, creatives, and innovators. You see artwork that represents underrepresented artists throughout the space. You see the suites that we have. We see Bernard Worthy, who is one of our superstar members here. Haven't seen Bernard in a while because he's producing more little members of the family. But we also are pleased to have the relationship with Knox Street Studios. They have been a tremendous partner for Provident. What we do does not work without collaboration, and we are also have benefited from the work that the County of Durham has been involved with. But you know, Gayle has really been instrumental because she came in when we had the then Vice President Harris here doing an event that talked about this NC Invest initiative. She looked around the space and she talked about, I will be back and we'll do some things together. And a lot of people will say those kinds of things, you never see them again. But Gayle, she's back, and we thank you for being here. We thank you for making this event possible in the space, and we thank Knox Street for being here in the County of Durham. Now, we would be remiss if we don't thank the work of North Carolina Rural Center and the NC Invest initiative, bringing the needed necessary resources that we desire in our community. So again, I want to thank the North Carolina Rural Center and NC Invest. Peter is going to tell me that I didn't say anything about what we do, so do you want to say something, Peter?
Well, thank you, Carl, and just want to welcome you all to consider joining this community. We are a co-working space. We make room for these types of gatherings, but on a day-to-day basis, this is where the action happens. Everyone's got their head down, grinding, and we try to make community happen in this space on a regular basis. So if you're out of town, feel free to come back when you're in flying through, or if you're a local and this is your first time here, please talk to Tyra Wade, our community manager. Where's Tyra? In the back, who is part of making everything happen today as well. Thank you, Tyra. And we'd love to see you on a regular basis. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lee Gray. I'm the Associate Director for Knox Street Studios, and I have some sentiments I'd like to share with you. I stayed up a little late last night because I was like, I want to really convey how I feel about the launch of this program, so forgive me if I do a little reading. On behalf of Wocstar Capital and Knox Street Studios, I'm thrilled to welcome you to the official launch of Wocstar Academy. This is a really perfect moment to unveil this program because Raleigh-Durham Startup Week has the innovation of our ecosystem on full display. We're really proud about that. Today marks more than just the launch of a program. It represents a pivotal milestone in our commitment to building a more equitable and inclusive entrepreneurial landscape here in Durham and across the state of North Carolina. This event celebrates the launch of the first venture capital incubator in Durham in a very long time. Yeah, that deserves an applause. And that is thanks to the generous support of Durham County. Is Durham County in the house? Andy back there. I think I saw Sabrina. And NC IDEA, where NC IDEA people, Tom, Barry, Allen. Yes, NC IDEA is right across the hall, so we're very fortunate to be in this space and have them here with us today. The stories of Knox Street Studios and Wocstar began with the recognition that talent is equally distributed, but opportunities aren't. Together, we've designed an incubator program that fills the gap by connecting underrepresented founders with the capital, knowledge, and networks they need to be successful. This spring, our focus on raising capital and storytelling tackles one of the most significant barriers entrepreneurs face. Who knows what that is? That part. Capital, that's right. With the expertise of active investors and our partners at Ghetto Film School, participants will develop the skills to craft compelling narratives and access to funding opportunities. So today you're going to hear from Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital, in conversation with Bernard Worthy, the visionary founder of Lonewell. Their fireside chat will shine a light on the pathway forward for inclusive innovation. After the fireside, you'll also have the opportunity to connect with people who have crucial resources to move the needle. So how many of you guys are founders in the room? That's a lot of founders. That's awesome. We love that. How many are investors? All right, we got some investors. That's great. How many are local or state government? Okay, and lastly, how many are entrepreneurial support? All right, so we are pretty equally distributed. So keep your eyes on the people who raise their hands in this room so you know who to connect with after. And each of you plays a vital role in this mission. We have to collaborate. We have to build this thing together to eliminate the silos. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So without further ado, I would like to bring Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne and Bernard Worthy to the stage for our fireside chat.
Hi everyone, I'm Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne. I met many of you the last time I was here, as Carl was talking about, and I want to say thank you for being here. This is how we do this, right? We got to keep connected, we got to keep talking to each other. And so for those of you who I haven't met before, I'll start with my why, because maybe that'll help when we get to talking and having some real convo over the coming months, help you understand where I'm coming from. So my career started in Silicon Valley. I'm the product of a woman who is very much like the women in Hidden Figures. They were working on with IBMs, the big mainframes. They were working on the space shuttle. My mother was doing similar with that IBM mainframe, COBOL, Fortran software, but she was working on the F-15 fighter plane and the DC-10. That DC-10 is sort of the godfather, if you will, of the jumbo planes that we're all now flying. And that F-15 really gave the U.S. air superiority. We had land and we had water, but that one really sort of gave us a superiority in the air. And so I grew up in Silicon Valley during the early days of Silicon Valley, and I saw how capital moved. And I came and I worked in Silicon Valley like my mom. I followed in her footsteps and my dad's and my stepdad's. And then I went to Wall Street, and I saw the movement of capital there. First as an investment banker. I was doing mergers and acquisitions, so buying and selling billion-dollar companies on behalf of my clients. And then I saw it as an international lobbyist from the policy side and from government side. And then lastly, I saw it from the side of philanthropy, 10 years managing a portion of JP Morgan's global philanthropy. So in all of these spaces and places, I saw the movement of capital. What I didn't see was the decision makers really connected to the entrepreneurs when it came to the capital that is so desperately needed by entrepreneurs. So after cancer in my eye and surviving that, I said, right, I will now live a life of purpose and of service to entrepreneurs. And so that is what I am committed to do. This is what my team, and I'd love if they could raise their hand, Wocstar team members that are in the room. There's one other, and when I say there's one other Chris, I don't see him right now, but please make sure you meet them. People love to meet the CEO. I'm the least important person in the room. These are the guys that make it happen. These are the guys that are going to read your decks. These are the guys that are going to get excited and say, oh my God, we need to invest in them. Oh my God, let's go meet them. So please make sure you meet them. But they are just as committed as I am to this. And so we're here today as a meet and greet, hopefully meet and greet us, but more importantly that you guys are meeting and greeting with each other, because if we're going to do this work, we have to do it together. We're bringing resources, we're writing checks. We're going to talk about a check we've written recently, but we have to do this together. And so that's my ask of you guys, that's my call to action. But it's happening, and I will tell you that it's not enough to do the work. We have to demonstrate success. There's a lot of foolery. There's new normals being created. There's different narratives. There's different stories. There's different set of rules these days. But what I've said to my team, and I say it to you guys, is we have to stay focused on success. We have to stay focused on the work and let the work speak for itself. We, little fund that could, we are going to be investing here. And we're already writing checks. We've also got a bigger fund where we've invested in 15, 16 companies. One of those has already sold for a couple $100 million. So our investors have received 100% plus of their money back. Let me repeat that. They have received 100% of what they invested into the Wocstar Fund. We have, yeah, Vicki knows because she's invested in our fund. She's an investor. We have another company that I haven't even told our investors that had an exit, and we got our money back from that deal. Well, we lost $40K, but that's okay. So we're showing the success. But here's what I want. I want the next success story I tell to be Bernard, be it you, be it you, be it you. So thank you guys for being here. We're going to make this quick. Again, this is really just a meet and greet. We're calling it a fireside chat, which is probably more fancy than it is. But I wanted you to know us, and I wanted you to know what it looks like and who it looks like when we invest. And so with that, Bernard, will you introduce yourself? Because he's actually not just a startup that we've invested in. He's actually can be a resource to all of you as well. So if you could frame it that way and tell them about the investment and what that was like going through our process.
Awesome. Thank you, Gayle. Round of applause for Gayle. Thanks again for Carl and Peter and Tyra for this wonderful space that we're in today. I'm fortunate enough for this to be our headquarters at Lonewell. We're right in the corner over there, so come visit us. If you're in this space at all, often you'll see me running from one call to the next, like pretty much like 2 minutes before every hour because I'm on so many calls throughout. But this is our home, and we're glad to have you here. I want to talk a little bit about my background and how spaces like this, like Provident, really inspired our story, encouraged our story, and fueled our story, and how that can be a part of your story and future as well. And then wrap that in with Wocstar and how they've become a really strong investor for us. So background, third generation entrepreneur. We can clap for that. It was one of those things where I knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of when. And I've got scars from the concrete business. I've got bad stories from the plumbing business. And, my family was in the trades. And so I understood, we're talking about access to capital and equity. I understood what that meant when we didn't have it. I understood because it meant my dad was working 3 jobs and I didn't get to play with him, right? Like there were very real trade-offs. And I'm sure that's a consistent story maybe in the crowd. And I think for me, kind of growing up in that, I saw the hustle and developed the hustle out of that. But I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to do it in high growth. I wanted to do it in tech. I wanted to figure out what that looked like. So I'm a product of UNC, Chapel Hill, so shout out to any Tar Heels in the audience. Wow, are there some boos? Were those boos? Okay. All right. Frosty in Durham. I live here too. But product of UNC Chapel Hill, and after graduating, after doing a brief stint in kind of Fortune 100, moved to Durham and got connected to the local startups scene. And at the time, American Underground, just down the street, so anybody who's officing at American Underground or knows of that ecosystem, we were there for 10 years. American Underground, we owe a lot to our story, who we were. We had no office. It was just a desk. We were there meeting with anybody and everybody that we could to kind of get plugged into the scene. And I would encourage you, if you're a new startup, if you're folks that are trying to get connected, co-working spaces like Provident, American Underground are the ways that you do it. So one of the things that was really difficult for us, and still is building the right team. How do you build the right team? And where do you find the right folks to kind of get you to the next level? And co-working spaces, different programs like what Gayle is talking about here with the Academy, that's how you get connected to the right folks to kind of get you to the next level. I can't speak more highly of that. The next thing I would say is getting into the right rooms with the right invite. I think this is really important. When you look like me, it might be different or alarming in some rooms that are more majority. That doesn't mean that we're not welcome. That doesn't mean that we can't hang, because we can. But it does mean that you have to have the right invite to be in that room for it to actually matter, right? I can't tell you how many times I've gone into an investor pitch or into a room, and it was a nice thing. It was a nice to have, but it didn't matter at the end of the day. We left that room, and nothing else changed on their side of the table or on my side of the table. And in fact, on my side of the table, I felt like, we wasted our time, right? Having the right invite, having the right advocate in those rooms, I think is really, really important. I can't speak highly enough of NC Idea. So Tom and his team, they were the first check into Lonewell, $50,000 years and years ago. And because of foundations like NC Idea, because of the local rootedness that we have of some of these organizations, I was able to get into the right rooms with the right advocate. That check led to a $200,000 friends and family round. I don't have friends and family to invest $200,000. But because of that, with my co-founder, we were able to raise that $200,000 because we had a stamp of approval from NC Idea. So finding the right advocate to get into the right rooms is super, super important. Last thing I'll say on kind of challenges and why ecosystem, I'll get back to Wocstar, is I think it's really important to have the right people in your corner to share best practices at the right time. We often talk about diverse founders are underfunded and overcoached or whatever it might be. And I think that can be true. We don't always need a program. We don't always need a webinar, so on and so forth. But sometimes we do need those best practices when it best aligns with what we're trying to do, right? And I think finding the communities that can give you the best practice at the right time, the right stage and phase is super, super important. And that leads me to Wocstar. Wocstar came and invested into Lonewell at such a pivotal time for us, like the best practices that Gayle and team are able to share with us from these exits that she's talking about, that Lonewell wants to be a part of in the future, is huge. And the timing for what we were doing, Gayla's got she shared a bit of her story with you all, but there's so much more behind it. What they're trying to do with the Academy and instilling that into actual curriculum and programming, I think is huge. So please take advantage of that. We are launching a marketplace, a nationwide marketplace to help small businesses find the lending capital that they need all over the country. And Gayla's team saw that vision, it connected with their mission that she's talking about, and they invested to help grow and fuel that product all over the country. And because of that, we've secured 2 national partnerships, and we're growing like weeds with that product. So thank you, Gayle and team, for investing. But find those advocates, those folks that are going to give you the playbooks, right? We don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. Any entrepreneur, you shouldn't do that. What works in Silicon Valley, what works in Boston, what works in these other markets, they have playbooks, and they follow those playbooks. with a new innovative idea, right? How do we find those playbooks, the academies of the world that are going to help introduce us to those types of playbooks?
Awesome, thank you. I think you see why I wanted Bernard to be up here with me talking with all of you. Two things I want to share with you. The Academy and the Academy's why was because raising capital is actually really hard. It can be soul draining at times. And I didn't want that for everyone. I wanted to figure out a way that all the things that I and all the other VCs and investors talk about, like, how do I get that knowledge to you, right? What's that inside track, right? That playbook that Bernard's talking about. So the course, we talk about the capital stack, and I hope all of you, if you don't already know NC Invest and Tom and his team, he's got others here in the room, they are a key part of that capital stack, right? There's other parts of the capital stack. Vicki Gibbs is here with NC Rural, right? These are other people that are part of the capital stack. So we do a lot of talking about the capital stack. We do a lot of talking about what investors ask and what they're listening for. And they're very different. And people won't tell you, but we're going to talk about that. The other thing I want you to know, and I hope all of you, if not yourself, maybe someone on your team joins the Academy. We have it, it's an 8-week course. Applications are open until April 23rd. Classes will start in May. We're also going to be doing and it's free. It's free. We're also going to be standing up an online curriculum, so you could do it at your own pace. But here's the other thing I want you to know about this, is I'm sitting here with you today, but what I commit to bring to you is my full network. My team and I run a program for New York City that has 100+ venture capital members. Those are 100+ firms that are actively writing checks. We're writing $250,000, $500,000, $1 million checks. They're writing the same and bigger checks. And I want them to get just as excited about North Carolina. So I am bringing that network with me. We also have a network of women VCs across the country that are actively investing. And so that's a network I want to make sure you guys are plugged into here. So this isn't solely about the work that we do and the checks that we write, because we can never write enough checks, right? We can't write the sizable, substantial checks you need. But I want to make sure that we bring our networks with us when we come. So that's two things about the Academy. The third thing I would say about the Academy is that we also need to have a real conversation about what's investable and where growth is and where to be building. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. And it might require that you pivot a little bit, and that's okay. We'll help you through that. There might be ways to think differently. One of the things when we were looking at Bernard's company and deciding on a investment was I actually liked the data more than even somewhat of the product offering. Data's huge. That company that exited last year that I mentioned to you, they got bought by Experian. Now, we all know Experian because of our credit card scores. Ooh, mine went up the other day. It was so exciting. I geeked out. I was like, what? I did it. I got some debt down. Sorry. But they got bought by Experian. They're a digital marketing company. But here's what they do, and here's what we saw, and here's what Experian saw, and here's what Experian paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for, was the data around all the marketing and consumer behavior. So we'll have conversations, because a lot of what you may be building may be a product or a service, but the underlying value is probably the data that's coming because of the work that you do. So those are a lot of the questions we'll have. We've also got a LinkedIn Live happening. Team, help me remember this, the 17th at 11. So if we don't answer your question here, and if we don't get a chance to meet, because you've got to run back over to Startup Week at American Underground, hop on the LinkedIn Live even for a minute. Let's talk there. Or WOVA, the app, because I messaged a bunch of you, and I'm so glad you're here. But that's the Academy. That's the Wocstar Fund. And with that, I think we'll open it up to some questions And I would love to hear what's on your mind. What can we be doing together differently?
Hello.
And project.
I want to go back to the playbook you mentioned. So I'm someone who asks a lot of questions, and I tend to find myself in hallways, mental hallways, and the playbook might be behind one of these doors. But a question is going to unlock the door. What question do I need to unlock the door? What question do I need to ask to unlock the door that has the playbook behind it? Because until today, I didn't know there was a playbook to be found.
So the question was, if I'm saying this correctly, is like, what's the playbook? And the question I should be asking.
Yeah, what question should I ask at this point in my journey to find the playbook for my,
Yeah, so the question is, what's the question I should ask? What's the playbook I need at this stage of my journey? I actually would throw that back to what you're trying to do, right? So look at what you're trying to do. Are you trying to raise capital right now? Are you trying to build your team? Are you trying to access different markets? And then I would ask, what has been the success path for others? Somewhat, right? We don't have to, be copycats. But look at some of the other successes out there, so that, to Bernard's point, that we're not reinventing the wheel. And then I would even flip it to, what problem are you solving? Everything is a problem that you're solving. When I first started raising capital, I was going in and being like, hey, just, I'm this Wall Street girl, I've started my own fund, I got a pipeline of deals I want to do, I've already done some myself, you should get in and invest too. And I didn't get any money. No money. My husband's looking at me like, sure you don't want to go back to work? I'm like, this is work! And you know what I realized? I got to change the narrative. So one, I started changing and saying, hey, take a look at your phone. The technology there, that was by a woman. Hey, take a look at this technology. I want to invest in more of that. Right? Because at first they probably thought I was going to, I wanted to invest in black beauty products, which I need. But that wasn't what I wanted to do with their money and my money. So I had to change what and how I talked to them about what I was going to invest in. But what I really changed was how I was going to solve a problem that they didn't have access to people like you. That they were smart investors, but they, because of their networks, their proximity, their life experiences, their zip code, they did not know all of you in this room. But I did, and I knew a way to get to them, and I knew how to have conversations with you to find out if you were building something really amazing in a way that they could never do that. That their bankers couldn't do that, that their Goldman advisor couldn't do that, but that I could. So now I came in and was like, I'm gonna help you solve the problem. And they're like, oh, okay, let's talk. So part of it is asking the question of, what problem am I solving? And that's gonna unveil a playbook, because now I knew what his problem or her problem was as an investor, and that led me to how to fix it for them via Wocstar. Yeah.
Hi, Gayla. My name is Vonti McCray. My company is AI Education. And you mentioned with the 8-week program, I just wanted to know if you guys will have anything along the lines of data. Because I really like that concept of really tracking those numbers, and that's always been a challenge for somebody like me that's a creative versus, I don't consider myself a mathematician, so.
Yeah, so one, you don't have to be the data scientist. You know who's a data scientist? Is my admin. I was like, and she applied to be our admin, and then it just came out, it's like, yeah, I'm a data scientist by background. So one, you don't have to be the data scientist. You can tap into other people that are to help build out your company in a way that you're capturing that for your company. I think is that what you were asking?
Yes,
Yeah.
and I wanted to know if the 8-week program would do any of that, training or anything like that, to just give us an idea of what to track.
Yeah, so we will talk about that. And that actually, because it'll be more bespoke to each of you, we'll do a lot of that in the digital office hours as well. Yeah. Great question. But yeah, I love that you're thinking about data. It's so important.
Howdy, y'all. This question is for Bernard, and thank you so much for what you both have shared today. On the topic of data, what are ways that we as founders can keep in mind ethical ways to use data, especially with some of us, having backgrounds where data and other assets of ours have been weaponized against us? So how can we ethically leverage data for our customers?
Wow, such a good question. Yeah, so the question is, how can we ethically leverage data in our startups and in our work? Do you have a startup?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Is it a data startup, or are you looking, is this like a sidecar offering to add data to it?
Sidecar.
Okay. So the reason I asked that question is Loanwell, as Gayle mentioned, we're an automated lending platform. And so lenders use us to go from application to underwriting, to decisions and approvals, to disbursement and closing, and then repayment of the loan for the life of the loan. So we have a lot of data, right? We got data from the very first apply now button, where you fill out your first name, to you've been delinquent for 60 days. Like, we got all the data, right? We spent a lot of time in the early days with a legal team to say, how do we ensure that although we're the custodian of the data for our clients, that we can leverage that data for reporting, for making the product better, for potential acquisition down the road, where folks would want to leverage that data. So we spent a lot of time making sure that we had access to it. I would say that's like number one. Like, because the data might not be yours, depending on how the users interact with your software. So having access to that is super important. And then secondarily, if you have access, then how do you leverage it ethically? And we will effectively aggregate and anonymize data if we're going to use it where we're just the custodian of it, right? And I think that's a really important thing. Like, you can still gain the insights. You can still feed an AI model with anonymized data, and we do that around credit scoring. We have like a really cool AI credit score model that our CTO built, and this anonymizes all the information across our platform, and we're able to say, if another applicant comes in with a profile that looks like this, here's the likelihood that they would be approved, right? You don't actually need to have PII in there. You don't actually need to know that it's this person that looks like that and is this ethnicity or whatever else. So thinking through some ways where you can still get the insights that you need without the PII is another thing that I would say.
We'll take one more question, but while someone's thinking of their question, I want to flip the idea of data around. So as you guys are building your companies, you're trying to figure out like your TAM, your total addressable market, what revenue looks like, you're trying to get data on demographics. Here's a little tip. You guys all have banking relationships of some sort. Ask your bankers to get you on the mailing list with the economics department so that you're getting those economic reports. Now, also ask them, hey, I need some economic data on this. I need some consumer data on XYZ. Can you have the economics department help pull that together for me? They will do it. They're trying to be helpful to small businesses. If you don't believe me, I will help you walk through that. But they are really trying to help small businesses. Think about all of the data that a JP Morgan or a MasterCard or Wells Fargo has. If you want to know about women 18 to 80 that are looking at beauty products, blah, 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 right, whatever the thing may be, they have that data, and they'll be helpful to you.
Sorry, I just want to tack onto that really, really quick and loop it back to the original question around pattern matching and what that looks like, the playbooks, right? Not just your banker, but ask that of investors, even if they're not your investor yet, right? We are dating these folks, and Gayle and I can tell you in another fireside chat that we dated for a bit before this happened, and we made a connection. We almost broke up, but the right timing and the right stage, it has to fit, right? And it did fit for us, which was great because there's so much alignment. But it has to fit, and that's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a negative thing. But investors, they're always looking to be helpful, quote unquote, so put them to task in that way. Like, can you get that consumer index report? Can you get that, TechCrunch, subscription? Can you get XYZ so that you can do the pattern matching for your business? Even though they might not invest, they're going to be interested about you doing the work that you are asking them to help with, right? So use that as a part of your approach. And I think the playbook piece, for me, investors are trying to pattern match. And we would hope that, with some co-creation and some collaboration and thinking about inclusivity, that they would have some new patterns and they would work to invest in areas like Durham, North Carolina that they don't traditionally invest in. But that takes work. You have to break them of their patterns, right, for that to make sense. So do the work that otherwise their investees are doing. Do the work that their startups are doing, and then you'll start to look like the types of investments that they invest in. But then we have the secret sauce. We are different, right? We are in the Southeast. We do have a specialty that we're focusing on, and that differentiation is also what they're looking for, right? So play the playbook, run the playbook, but then highlight the things that really make you different.
Gayle, my name is Derek Drakeford. I'm the founder of the Purpose University mobile app. And I'm a future, maybe 10 years from now, I'm a future investor. And I want to learn from your mistakes. What mistake have you made as an investor that I can learn from?
So there'll be a book one day on that. No, seriously, because we have the Wocstar Academy for that's entrepreneurial facing. I want to do the same for investors because I want more people to look at this asset class and get involved in this asset class. And there's so many that aren't. So I've been thinking about that. I just haven't had the time to write it yet. But to answer your question today, the biggest mistake I made, two mistakes I made, was being a lazy investor because some celebrity or some bigwig or someone who I thought was smarter than me was in the deal. And that still happens even now. Like my team or a co-investor will be like, hey, Andreessen's in this, or Mark Cuban's in this, we got to get in it. Now you can get in it with Cuban because if Cuban loses money, he may not even know he lost it. If I lose money, I know the minute it happens, right? Now 40K, right? I'm still salty. Listen, I love those founders and I love their exit, but I'm 40 short. I'm 40 late. 40K late. So that was the first mistake I would say I made, is get caught up, and that's called herd mentality. And that's what's happening on the stock market right now. And by the way, what's happening on the stock market right now, guys? Don't lose your damn mind over that. It's cyclical, it goes up, it goes down. You're not a day trader, don't worry about it. My mother's like, did you say, Mommy, you are not a day trader. You're good. You are so good, it's fine. That's herd mentality. Man in the Oval Office says something, traders hear that, one trader does a deal that way, everyone goes that way on that deal, right? They follow, da-da-da. Don't worry about it. So that was me being a lazy investor. The second mistake I made is I invested in things that I didn't really understand, or I didn't really have a way to help them besides write a check. Now, I'm never going to be a biochemist. I'm never going to be a life scientist. I'm never going to be what Bernard is or what you are. I'm never going to be what any of you guys are. But if I can't understand it in a way that I can get comfortable with it, it's not the right deal for me. And secondly, if I can't add any other value, it's not the right deal. Because what happens is you don't need me. I don't get to know what's going on. You won't come and talk to me when there's problems. And so when it goes sideways, I'm the last one to know, and then I'm out money as well. And that becomes a bad deal. And that was the other thing, is we wanted to be that investment firm that was your big brother or your big sister. And I think that's why people, more than just wanting the check, why people are like, yeah, we want Gayle, we want her team on our cap table, is because we will fight for them. Now, what does that look like? That looks like the next investor, I'm happy to be like, listen, don't get so goddamn greedy. Those terms are offensive. Take them out, do this, da-da-da, that's ridiculous. Or I'd also be the one being like, well, listen, just because I negotiated a good deal and you did it, that's your problem. I can't help you, right? That could be me calling a client on your behalf. I mean, like, hey, I want you to meet Bernard. Can we get and our call. I think he would make a great, you guys would be a great customer for him. Can we have that meeting together? Which we did, right? We've done that. We need to do more of that. That's me calling JP Morgan. We have a company we invested in, about $1.2 million we put into them, a film finance type company. Now, I used to do film finance when I was an investment banker. So I know that market, and I know the players, and I know that a lot of the banks don't have this capability on their platform. So I said to the founder after we invested, I said, hey, how many years you got in this? What do you think? 2, 3? You want to get sold in 2 or 3? Like, let's build it to this amount, and then let's, what if we try and sell it? And he was like, yeah. I was like, all right, let me go start talking to the big boys now, the big banks, to help us get ready for that merger. Remember, I'm an M&A banker. That's my background. It's one thing to get into a deal, because you can be that lazy investor, right? Cuban's in it, so I'm going to get in it. Elon, no, maybe not Elon's a good example, but Andreessen's in it, so I should get in it. Zuckerberg's in it, right? So it's easy to get into a deal. The hard part, the magic, is getting out of the deal. So we got into that deal, 1.2 million, and other people came into the deal too. I'm already working so that they can get bought in 2 years. I've already said, JP Morgan, you should think about buying them. Put me in touch with the media and telecom folks now. I want them to hear about them. I want to talk it through with them. And then I also want to go talk to the guys I used to work with in M&A to get ready to also be on the other side to do the deal for them. So those are ways that we would come in and help. But the answer to your question is, when I was a lazy investor and I didn't have any other way to be helpful besides a check, those are when I made my worst investments. Yeah. Alrighty, guys, we have to go, or you guys have to go, because you're here for the rest of Startup Week. But find us through our QR codes. Find us online, Wocstar.com. We in Knox Studio have that academy that's going to start in May. We're still taking applications. We are still talking to you. Maybe some of you don't need the academy and to talk about how to raise capital. We are actively investing, so if you want to just have a conversation, have us look at your deck and have that conversation, we are here for that as well. We will be in town every other week, so you will see me. You'll see me, the VC in the hat. We have that LinkedIn Live next week's the 17th at 11. There'll be many of us on there. And then I just want to finish by saying thank you to Bernard for trusting us in your company. I want to say thank you to Provident 1898 for also welcoming us. To Tom and the team at NC Invest, thank you for again trusting us. And then Miss Vicki Gibbs over here for writing the check. It's her check that allows us to write a check to all of you, so thank you. And then lastly, I want to thank you guys for why can't I say that word today? Welcoming us and my team to North Carolina. Thank you for welcoming us.
All right, thank you, everyone. Let's give a big round of applause to Gayle and Bernard. Thank you guys so much.